to any questions you might have, and happy to share any, thoughts with you. Yeah.
Awesome, JJ. Thanks for the introduction. And I think you have a YouTube video just to introduce your company. So let me just quickly share on my screen so our audience can see what you guys do.
Sure.
Let me know if you can see it. See, I'll just share my audio.
People love communicating. We talk with friends, to conduct business, to share stories, to inspire others. In fact, we spend 80% of our day communicating in some way. And yet, effectively communicating is difficult. Nailing the interview, selling the product, leading a team. It's all highly nuanced. Imagine communicating powerfully in any scenario. Say hello to TalkMeUp. At TalkMeUp, we've created a smart coaching system to train everyone to be a power communicator. You can practice anywhere, anytime. By simply recording yourself into the camera, you'll receive instant and personalized feedback on your delivery and content. As a manager, you can train and manage teams to drive for best performance. Learning and sharing best practices, assigning courses, monitoring performance, and inspiring discussion has never been easier. TalkMeUp, your AI-powered smart coach.
All right, that's a great commercial, I would say. And I see yourself actually in the commercial. Does that save a little bit of money?
Yeah, as an entrepreneur, you do pretty much everything to save costs. Yeah.
Cool. So let's just get started to this talk. And for the audience, we will have 3 parts for this talk. So for the first part, we'll just go back to JJ's early stage in career, talk about her experience after graduated from Peking University, like working in Huawei and study as an MBA student in CMU. And part 2, we're gonna talk about your startup, like how you started TalkMeUp, and how you tackle down these all kinds of challenges you have faced. And the last part, we're gonna look into the future. So I want to get your perspective on the AI industry, the startup environment currently in US or in China, and also your future plans with TalkMeUp. So great. So let's get started with your early stage. So I think you graduated from Peking University with a master's degree in science and engineering. Mm-hmm. So can you tell me about how you make your decisions for choosing your first job, and why you choose Huawei, and why you didn't start with like an engineer or scientist, but you choose like a business track?
Right. That's a great question. I think when I was in grad school, I just realized my passion was not in working as an engineer, even though I love science and technology, right? I just feel like in terms of my personality, I'm just not the typical engineer type. So luckily, we had 3-year master program at Peking University. During the second year, I think I finished all the requirements for graduation very quickly. So I went to find an internship at Groupon China. So that was a time when group buying was like crazy in the China market. That was 2011. And then Groupon basically started to enter the Chinese market. So very luckily, I became an assistant, an intern over there. I just realized, oh, this is something I really like, even though, working as a sales assistant, I was so intrigued by how people operate like at fast pace on the business side. So I worked like triple hard and got promoted from a sales intern to a sales director within 3 months. That was like amazing. So later on, Groupon didn't survive in China, but a lot of, sales directors back then, they began to, start their own businesses in China. So at that time, I was basically working closely with the former VP of sales at Groupon China, Tim. And then we were like, oh, perhaps we could do a startup, as a small team together. So that's my first startup experience in 2012. It didn't work because, I was still a kid. We didn't even have a programmer on the team. Learn a lot. Also, I realized, becoming an entrepreneur was my true passion. So that's why also I realized, I didn't have enough management skills and, didn't understand how an organization should operate. So I decided to take a little bit detour to work for a tech company and then learn from every, perspective I could learn from. So that's why, after I graduated, I went to work with Huawei on the business side. So first 2 years working as an internal consultant on a management transformation project. And then after the project finished, completed, I worked on the channel sales business for Huawei for 2 more years. In 2016, I feel, I was ready to go back and pursue my entrepreneur dream because I feel like, I had learned what I planned to learn. And it was time for me to take a little bit leap to go back and pursue my entrepreneur dream. So I started to apply for business schools here in the United States. And very luckily, I got an offer from CMU. They also exempt part of my tuition. That was great. And then basically the story started from there. First year MBA, I tried other ideas that didn't work, but eventually iterated and became the idea of TalkMeUp. So the idea basically came to me at the beginning of my second MBA year. And then I did a lot of iterations during my, entrepreneurship class. I was my capstone project as well. Right after I graduated, we incorporated. So even though on the surface, I did a little bit transition from the technical background to the business, roles, right? But I feel like in terms of mindset and skill set, it's basically very similar because if you look at how a researcher, does his or her work at a lab, they find the problem, they come up with the hypothesis, which is a possible solution, and then they test it out and they iterate on it and they improve it, right? That's the same methodology an entrepreneurs, at least that I'm using, whether it's like sales pipeline management, product development, AI development. So I would say it's transferable skills that I carried over from my technical education background to what I'm doing right now. Yeah.
Yeah, that's very impressive. And you just became a sales director when in your first intern. So I definitely know that you got talent in sales. So do you feel you have more like people skills and those engineering background actually helps you in your career advancement? What do you think of the most important factor, which helps you to go through all these and make you stand out as a pretty good candidate, even for the CMU MBA?
I think I'm pretty good at finding patterns or analyze problems under ambiguous situations. So that's why I was able, or I'm still able to do things in a very effective way. So basically, the way I manage, sales pipeline or sales team is pretty similar to how I, came up with the math model during grad school. So I would say that's my strength. Also, I think that has something to do with my personality. So I'm the kind of person that if I'm interested in something and I decide to do something, I'm not going to quit, halfway. So I'm like all in. There's no plan B. So yeah, I'm not going to stop until, this completes. Yeah. And in terms of people skills, I think, yeah, so I'm pretty good at listen to other people and learn from what they're good at, and then basically glue the whole team together. So, but such skills can be trained. I definitely give credits to my work experience. Yeah.
Got it. You just mentioned those skills can be trained. So can you just give us some examples, like, because a lot of our audience actually from a software engineering background, which in their working environment, a lot of time we're lacking of like practicing those communication skills, especially in the United States, when English is our second language. So we feel that's a little bit pressure on that. So do you have some tips on those areas in your work that we can build up our strengths in communications, or people management, or any kind of the leadership you just mentioned?
Yeah. So I think first of all, we have to adjust our attitudes. Don't be shy, right? Also, as a team member, I think both your managers or your team members, they expect you to speak up and speak out of what you think, right? Not just, they expect you to stand out, but you sharing your own ideas and thoughts actually contributes to the whole team's, operations, right? Because if you are shy, people might misunderstand you as, this is not a team player. He or she doesn't like me. But sometimes it's the opposite, right? So first of all, don't be shy. If you have any questions, any ideas, just speak out, right? Also, I would say over communication is always better than not enough communication. That means, let's say if your manager gives you a task, it's always good for you to ask for the why. For instance, okay, please fix this by when, right? If you could ask a follow-up question saying, oh, is this for completing the deliverable for customer X? So like ask more questions to figure out the bigger picture so that you make sure your deliverable serves the purpose of the whole team's goal, right? Because sometimes when we communicate, let's say I say something and will you accept such information, right? There's always a discount. Let's say I said, 100%, and then you received 80%. That's like the normal rate, right? If you don't ask me follow-up questions, you're gonna miss the 20% of the information. So I would say during each time of any interpersonal communication, ask extra questions to make sure your audience understands you. Also, you understand completely what their motivation is. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for the advice. And my last question in this part in your early stage of career. So, getting to a MBA also with a full-time job is typically hard. So can you just give us some advice, especially to some audiences who has a plan to get an MBA, of how to prepare for it, and just give some general tips. How can you get into the best, or not the best, but most fitting MBA programs when you actually having a full-time job?
Yeah, so it was definitely hard when you prepare for MBA. There's like GMAT test, and then there's like a lot of essays for you to write, and then there's application process, interview process, and everything. A lot of work, right? I'm afraid if you want to go that route, you'll have to suck it up and do all the hard work it takes. After that, I would say like a typical MBA program, for instance, CMU, right? CMU has very strong, CS background. The rest of the school is ranked pretty high in CS. So for me, I was actually looking for a business school that also, has strong connection to, CS departments, their CS departments or robotics department, because my goal was to do a tech startup. So that's why I applied for universities like CMU. So I would say that there's nothing wrong if you want to be a consultant or accountant or a product manager. Just go learn those MBA programs background to see what's best for you. I would say MBA is not the end goal. It is a path to your end goal. Yeah.
Got it. So that's finished our first part. And to all the audiences, if you have any questions, just feel free to type into the Q&A session in the Zoom chat, and we'll take them at the end of this talk. So let's move on to the second part. Let's talk about your startup. So TalkMeUp. So how you started TalkMeUp? Where did this idea come from, and how did you do that?
Yeah, so during my first year at MBA program, I was actually having another idea, which didn't work. So one day I was like trying to think, doing some soul searching, trying to think of the whole purpose of me quitting my well-paid job and then come over here, high opportunity costs. I was like, why did I do that? What's the whole value of a typical MBA program, right? So I remember at that time I could not find a straight answer. So instead, I decided to ask my fellow classmates, my MBA colleagues, to learn what their answers are. So I basically did a survey among my MBA classmates and asked them, what the most valuable resources they think out of a typical MBA program. Surprisingly, people didn't rank, like accounting courses or econ courses. They ranked two things. First one is the network resource, which is pretty obvious. Second one is the soft skill training or communication training, which later further led me to discover further into this market, because for instance, as a typical MBA student, it is mandatory for you to take the management presentation classes or negotiation or some other class of leadership classes. The format was pretty straightforward, sounds to me. Basically, the professor would ask you to perform or present in front of the class. And then towards the end, the professor will give you feedback on your delivery content. So based on a set of metrics. Unfortunately, the mainstream of the training solutions are very old school, which means it always require one or multiple coaches to conduct the training session. So I was like, wow, this is a huge market, but so outdated. Could we possibly use AI to do the analysis, right? So that's why, I got the idea. So I further reached out to my old friends who studied AI. And I say, hey, can we do this, technically? The short answer is yes, but of course, we did a lot of experiment, MVP, demo product, beta product, etc. But the short answer is yes. And also the bright side is, even though it's very hard, everything's pretty hard, was pretty hard, the feedback we got from the potential customers was very positive. So that basically gave us hope to push this through. Yeah.
That sounds fantastic. You just got a spark of idea and you tested and moved very fast and you got like positive feedbacks. So it sounds really, it sounds easy at first, but startups always got challenges. So can you just tell us about some major challenges you have faced and how do you deal with?
I would say two things or one thing. It's all tangled up together. For instance, at the early stage, it was very, very hard to attract other talents to join you full time. And then from the fundraising perspective, given the fact that I was, F1 student, right, 1 year OPT, the investors, they are very risk avert. So they were like, your visa status is a huge risk for us. We can't just invest until you resolve that issue, right? And then on the other side, our co-founders or potential co-founders were like, oh, we don't have any investment yet. What if, I quit my well-paid job at, huge tech companies, and then we don't have any money? That's, it doesn't make any sense for me to make such move, right? So it's been like chicken egg situation for almost a year. But luckily we were able to break that loop by winning, various competitions, starting from, hiring interns who didn't even know how to use AWS, but then, better interns till we found, better full-time employees, core team members. Yeah, and then I resolved my visa issue as well. Yeah, so I guess what we did is basically break down the whole dilemma into smaller problems and tackle them one by one. Yeah.
Got it. That's super helpful. Like this thought process, I really like that because you face a lot of problems, but you want to pick up the most important one and break them down to pieces, and they'll get much easier. So you talk about your co-founders. So I know co-founders or the first or second employees are really important. So how did you find them, and like why did you find them?
I think, well, you need a core team with complementary skills, right? For me, I cannot code, and we found a AI startup, right? We need people who can code and who can train AI. So that's why. And then how, I would say mostly from CMU, either directly or indirectly. I mean, definitely it took some time for us to have, the 5 of us as the core team managers together. I would say they all started as part-time team members, and then later on they feel more confident about, the synergy that we work together, also the future of our company. So at one moment they just decided to go all in with me. Yeah. It takes time, but it'll happen. Yeah.
Do you find it's very hard to hire the best talents because you start very small? You have to compete with all those big tech companies, especially for CMU students. I know a lot of my colleagues are like in Amazon, Microsoft, they're like from CMU. Everybody wants to go straight to those big companies. So how would you sell your startup for those talents you want to hire?
I wouldn't see this as a competition, because if you compare Apple to Apple in terms of the salary, we can't compete with them, right? So what startup ends up having, a typical startup ends up having is, talents with similar mindset, which means, they want to take risks and they want to do something big for with their lives. So those are the people you want to hire. And of course, people come and go. I would say as your company grows, the better talents you can attract. So when you are at a stage, let's say Series A, Series B stage, you can offer a similar, salary package plus your equity. I would say that kind of package is more attractive to than what the big companies can offer. Because if you end up working at a big company, maybe 3 years since you joined the company, you're still like at the entry level, right? So your career path is like pretty much limited. Whereas at startups, there's no limit for the talents. So it definitely takes certain personality for the talents to join the startups. Yeah, I would say just keep going as a founder or co-founder, your top priority is to keep the momentum going, as a team. People come and go, don't take it too personally. Yeah, that's life, right? Yeah.
Yep. Awesome. So we talk about people, and now we want to talk about product. So especially for a lot of AI startups, people tend to trying to build like very awesome technologies, but not all of them can sell. So sale is really important, especially for startups. So I think you have a great background in sales, and which makes this your startup really competitive at first. But can you tell us about how did you get your first customer, and how did you get your first deal set?
Yeah. So I would say different from other, typical AI or high tech companies, we started everything from the business side. So we discovered a problem and then we came up with a solution. So with AI, without AI, AI is just a means to the end goal, right? So there are a lot of great companies that are not even using technology that much. They're still successful, right? So we're not super asphyxiated into the AI per se, even though we're publishing papers and everything. But I would say we have been business driven since day one. That means every time we iterate on our product, there's always either a pilot partner or an actual customer waiting there for us to get feedback from. Yeah, so I would say we work from the business side backwards. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a really great business model because you can iterate your product. You got feedback from your customer directly, and that really helps your product iteration. So great. So I think for another question for this startup topic is, do you actually have competitors in your in this industry, and or any partners, and how do you work with them?
Yeah, so we're a B2B company, so we focus on B2B, and the market we are focused on is basically enterprise corporate training. In this market, if you take the first glance, there are tens of thousands of competitors. But they're all, traditional training companies, which means they need to hire human coaches to conduct the business. That means their business models are not scalable. So thanks to COVID, I guess, a lot of them realized, the pain points to their old business models, and then realize, they need to find a solution to make their business model more scalable. That's where we fit in. So basically, we are actually working with our competitors and turn them into our partners, because we focus on developing and improving our technology. They have very strong background and competitive advantage, I would say, in terms of training content and sales network. So we basically don't compete at the same level, but there's definitely synergy for us to work together. Yeah.
Got it. So my next question is about money. So that's a really hard question for a startup. So as a CEO or founder, you have to be the person to reach out to either angel funds, VC, and investors. So can you tell us some stories or the challenges you have been facing, and how did you get those investments and keep your company alive?
Yeah, I would say I put more focus on the sales side than fundraising. Perhaps I should have done more in terms of networking with potential investors. But yeah, we've been focused on developing our product and reaching out to customers, potential customers on that. In terms of fundraising, I would say the majority of our angel investors, so we closed our pre-seed round, so most of them are angel investors. the majority of our angel investors are either first degree or second degree connected with CMU. So that's our starting point. Also, we won quite a few competitions, and then I participated in panel sessions, webinars and whatsoever. So at those events, I got a chance to meet with potential customers and the potential investors. It definitely takes time for them to actually buy in, right? Get buy-in from them, because on their side, they need to learn you personally. They need to learn your team. They want to make sure, you're actually building a valid solution to address a real problem, and your team's actually, operating in a good way, so that you have good momentum going. So it takes time to prove to them, all the checkbox you have to check for them. But I would say, I think at least so far, the strategy of focusing on, building our business, building our technology worked for us. We, instead of, pursue those investors, I think we have been attracting them to, build this vision together with us. Yeah. And they're great investors. Yeah.
Got it. So can I say this way? So you focus on the business and sales side, you actually got cash flows already. So that already can have revenue streams and make your company running. So you don't have to worry about the fundings too much. Is that the case?
Not in the first 2 years. So like towards the end of this year, we started to see traction. But at the beginning, we won a few competitions that gave us cash reward. And our team has basically been bootstrapping. So the burn rate is not that high. Yeah.
Cool. So I think my last question for this part is, how do you see this challenging situation when COVID-19? You just mentioned it's actually an opportunity for you guys, but this environment, especially for these COVID-19 cases raised, and those service industries are hit pretty badly. And do you see a way that's an opportunity for your company, or there's more challenging part for your company?
I would say in the short run, in terms of cash flow, it was definitely challenging because the whole market is short of in cash, right? So our customers can't pay our customers. That means our customers cannot pay us, at least this year. So we look forward, to the whole market getting better soon next year. But I would say in the long run, it definitely gave us opportunity, because right now a lot of companies, I would say maybe all of them, are operating at least partially remote. And people started to see, having team working remote actually save them a lot of operational costs. The only part is, they have to make sure everybody communicates, effectively, even though everybody's working from home, right? So that actually gives us opportunity for us to, provide the training solution to make sure, everybody communicate effective with the rest of the team, even working remotely. I would see, before COVID happened, a lot of company already allowed or even encouraged work from home, the kind of form, right, of work, teamwork. I would say more and more company will start to adopt such work format for everybody. Yeah, so definitely in the long run, we do see opportunities. Yeah.
Awesome. So let's move on to the last part. So let's look into the future. And I really want to get your perspective on the AI industry. I know AI is a very hot topic, even buzzword. Everybody does that, and people get very high salaries when you have a AI engineer title. So what do you think about this industry in general, and what do you see your company's position in it, and how, like, there's just two more questions. I'll have follow up. So
yeah, I don't see AI as an industry from the traditional perspective. AI is like a key, right? And then those vertical industries are like locks. We're trying to use the key to unlock certain puzzles in different industries. So I would say right now, like more and more vertical industries, they're trying to adopt AI methodologies or methods to solve a lot of issues. I would say the mainstream of AI, for example, autonomous car, or facial recognition, the basic CV, object detection, etc. That part has been already very mature. And going forward, I think AI will evolve into more use case specific solutions. So I think TalkMeUp is use case specific solutions. So it's an application using AI. I think I can see a lot of similar applications in different industries going forward, whether in education or entertainment, or even for leisure, hospitality, etc., etc. So it's going to be more specific to solve more specific issues instead of like a general application. Yeah.
Yeah, I really love your answer of AI is not a specific industry, because it's actually based on a lot of different verticals, and you need to provide the right solution to become a really successful company. So I would say your company is more like a SaaS company, so software as a service. So we know now B2B business is pretty hot, and what you think? What's your thoughts on this kind of business? Like, how would you stand out as a startup in this B2B world?
I would say, first of all, definitely address the real problems, right? Because it is like, as you build and develop your own startup, it's like a funnel process, which means, okay, at first you have a general hypothesis, and then you have an MVP, and then as you do more customer discovery, you find more specific issues, and then you develop specific product features to address those specific issues. So I would say, first of all, definitely keep talking with your customers and learn what their specific issues are, even though sometimes their issue is not exactly what you've been building, but adding such things to your development milestone would actually open many doors when you sell to similar customers. I'm going to give you an example. So for instance, our core technology is building the video-based analyzer, right? Either speak to the camera, we give them feedback. But that's just one part of training. So some of our customers say, okay, I want to train, for instance, my presentation skills, but you just give me like a video recorder, I don't even know what to talk about in the first place, right? So our 1.0 product, which is last year, we decided to develop a relatively more complete learning journey for our users, which means we provide them with a training tutorial, then they practice, then we give them feedback. So it's a complete learning loop. So I would say, yeah, just stay close with their customers. And also in our case, for instance, as a startup, you definitely cannot overhaul whatever big CRM or whatever solutions or SaaS product that your customers are using right now, because when it comes to B2B sales, you can't actually make the sale unless your product is almost perfect that they can directly use. But for startups, it's really hard, right? So our strategy right now is, instead of building a complete SaaS product that support the whole training process, we kind of focus on the video analyzer related functions and wrap that up as a API that other, HR management system or learning management system can integrate into, so that we can at least make the first step into their ecosystem and survive first. And then as we grow, as we learn more, we can grow and adapt more into their internal processes. So yeah, survive first.
Great. Here
That's my dog, sorry.
Yeah, he definitely agrees with what you said. Yeah. And so let's see. Yeah, feel free to take a break if you need to handle a dog, and let us know if you need some break. And you're good?
Yeah, we're good. There's someone outside, I guess.
Got it. All right, cool. So, next question is about the startup environment in US. So, especially for we'll have a new president. These tax or these environments are gonna change. So, what do you think about the situations right now? Is this still a good timing for someone to get a startup, especially in the tech industry? I know there's a pretty big question, but just want to get your thoughts because you're pretty close to CMU, the startup community, and just want to get your idea from the front line.
Yeah, I would say if you look at 2017 or 18, when I started TalkMeUp, the situation right now is definitely better. For one thing, at least, at that time, I only had 1 year OPT, right? Now, CME is offering a 3-year STEM OPT. That's great. Also, I feel like the overall big, whether it's like political or economic situation, it has some effect on, it will give you like frictions to some extent. But if you look at, the global financial crisis times, a lot of great companies actually started during that time, like during the winter time, right? So I would say if you could find a real problem and then keep focusing on building a solution to address the real problem, that means once you have a product, people are going to pay you for that, then you can survive. And that has not much to do with the overall, environment. Yeah, so it's possible, short answer, yeah.
Got it. Cool. So let's talk about your future plans for TalkMeUp. So I feel it's a very amazing product, and as a consumer, I would like to try that. So do you guys even have the plan to expand to the consumer side, not just for the business side? Because I think even for these AI face recognition, the more people, the more user you have, the more data you have, and the better algorithm or the training set you have.
Yeah, so it's available for consumers. I actually asked my team to create a discount code, so only like $1 to use our product, like full access for a month. I'm gonna type it over here.
Oh, that's awesome. I didn't know that you have some gift for the audience.
Yeah, so that's our website, and this is the discount code. Yeah, $1.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, so we do have a lot of job interview courses and general presentation courses available. Yeah, and welcome to reach out to me if you have any feedback.
Awesome. Great. So another question about your future plans. So you're originally from China, and do you have plans to expand your business to China?
We actually already have a couple of customers in China.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so we didn't know it was this smooth because this year, China market recovered relatively faster than the rest of the world in terms of, coping with COVID-19. So this summer we started to reach out to potential Chinese customers. I mean, even though right now we only have an English version of product, we already have, a couple of customers over there. We do see great opportunity over there. And our team currently is working on a Chinese version product to support the future needs. Yeah, there's definitely opportunity.
Got it. So any other plans to expand to other countries? I know you have been working in the Latin Americas too in your early stage. Mm-hmm. And I know your product is more like from a visual perspective. So I think that for different countries, different cultures, communication standards, like how to train them is a little bit different. So have you put different kind of a product ideas for different countries or like cultural zones?
Yeah, that's a great question. So another unique benefit or feature of our product is our AI is highly adaptive and customizable for different cultures, different industries, or different companies. Actually, with our SaaS product, we're actually offering a custom solution for our customers. So right now, at least in terms of growing plan, initially right now we're focused on English-speaking countries. So pretty soon we're gonna enter a partnership with a very large Indian training company in India. Right now we're having conversation with training companies in Europe as well. So if you look at the corporate training market, Southeast Asia, Europe, those are two fast-growing regions. Yeah.
Got it. And yeah, it's fantastic you talk about growth because that's exactly my next question. So, growth is really important for any startups. I know for consumer product companies, typically you buy ads on Facebook, Google, and you do those, we call it growth hacking skills, bring traffic in and you get people attracted, you want to retain them. Do you guys do differently in B2B services? How would you guys grow your business? Is that from partnerships, like generate leads, getting salespeople, sales team to different countries, or there's other things you guys are gonna do?
So in terms of sales, I'm doing most of the sales work right now. In terms of marketing, I think right now we are focused on brand building. If you go to LinkedIn or Facebook and search for TalkMeUp, you can see every week we share, for example, blog posts with communication skills and thoughts. Our team, we participate in competitions, AI conferences. We publish papers on IEEE conferences and journals. Get exposure. Also, we promote every core team member on our team to build our brand by building their personal brand. Yeah, there are a lot of brand building that we're doing right now. And then in terms of sales, basically it's the old traditional sales pipeline management, which means cold contact as a first step or warm intro, and then you follow up, trying to push each deal to the end stage. Yeah. But later on, we definitely want to hire more people to conduct the sales and marketing. Yeah.
Sure. So yeah, and feel free to say you're hiring, and maybe some of our audience is looking for opportunities.
Sure.
Cool.
Yeah.
And so cool. I will have 5 minutes in our talk, so I will let you to close. Feel free to give up some the last advice on startups, and feel free to introduce your new positions if you are actually hiring.
Yeah, sure. I mean, if you're interested in, working at a startup, I feel like if you want to be an entrepreneur or have certain, ambition, working at an early stage startup is actually way better than starting a business on your own. Because, working as a startup, you have all the freedom, all the autonomy, and enjoy all the fun of doing a startup without taking the risks as the founder. So I think, yeah, if you're interested in working, at a company, such as startup, such as TalkMeUp, definitely reach out to me. If you want to start your own business and want to talk more, definitely reach out to me after this session. I'm gonna post my LinkedIn URL over here as well. Feel free to reach out. Yeah. Do we have
Awesome.
like questions in the session here?
Yes. So our next half hour is for Q&A. So I do have a couple of questions coming in. So for the audiences, just feel free to type in your questions and we'll take right now. Cool. So I will do the order as I received. So my first question from the audiences is, do you think a full-time MBA is a must? Or we can do part-time? So this is more question about, does it work to get a full-time or part-time is just at the same? Do you have to go to full-time MBA if you want to achieve your goals from MBA programs?
It depends on what you're looking for. If you want to do a startup, I would encourage you to have a full-time MBA, because if you are having a full-time job and then a part-time MBA, in the meantime, you're trying to start a business, that's almost impossible. Also, you need to build your own network, right? Whether it's like investor network or advisor network, or trying to get, core team members. A full-time MBA definitely gives you more access to those resources. But on the other hand, if you're trying to looking for a better job, want to switch your job, I think a part-time MBA would do. I mean, I didn't take a part-time MBA, so I could not give you the answer, but a lot of my part-time MBA classmates, they got pretty good job in the end. Yeah.
Got it. I have a similar question, so I will just do together. So this question is, you are changing your background from the major to your engineering science major to business. Do you think it's necessary to get an MBA to do that, or you can just do before you're building a startup? Do you think it's necessary to get an MBA, or you can just do?
It's not necessary. Yeah, it's not necessary. Yeah.
Yep. Cool. And next question, you have an OPT at first. Can you actually legally register a company with OPT?
Yeah.
Yes, you do. Okay.
Yeah, I'm not a lawyer, but so I registered my company during my OPT period.
Got it.
You should definitely talk with the corporate lawyer for that. Yeah.
Yep. Cool. One more question. Any thought about how to protect your AI technology from copying by competitors? Because a lot of there's just a lot of copy in this industry.
You can't even if you have patent granted or paper published, if they want to copy you or reverse engineer, you can't stop them.
Right.
But with that being said, it doesn't mean you cannot protect your business. So from the legal perspective, you can protect your core secret as trade secret, the core code and everything. So there's a lot of protocols you can follow to protect your code passwords and whatever. So that's something you can do. Another thing is in terms of AI, on our side, we're basically training the core technology using our own data set with our own annotations. Our competitors, I don't think they have such data set. So for AI, it's like data set differentiates your outcome, right? The AI model. So that's another way to do it. Have your own data set. Yeah, in terms of product features, that's basically open information, public information for anyone who have access to your product. I would say stay close to your customers and iterate and deliver satisfactory deliverables and features to your customers. Because when it comes to, especially if you're doing B2B, product is only half of the equation. Sales side contributes the other half. So it's not like, oh, our product is 1% or 2% better than our competitors. That's why customers buy our product. It's never the case, right? So there's more variables you have to consider. Instead of only worrying about protecting the AI. Yeah, because you're selling a product, not the technology per se. Yeah.
Got it. I see there's no more questions, but I do have a question for you. So I know a lot of the CMU graduated, especially MBA graduated, they decide to become like a product manager in those high-tech companies. So do you think this is a great path to a startup, become a product manager? I know you started with a sales background, and I'm not sure if you have a product manager or like a VP of product in your team, but can you just give some advice to those product managers who has some thoughts on starting a company?
Yeah, I would say product managers, if you know technology, like even if you cannot code yourself, that is great, because as an entrepreneur, you are actually a product manager, at least at the early stage, right? That means you need to talk with the customers, analyze their feedback, and then visualize their feedback into actual product features, and then assign and break down and assign those tasks to the rest of your team, and then make sure they finish those tasks, and then you have a ready to go product to then give back to your customers. So the whole skill set is what's needed for an entrepreneur. So I would say product management or sales management, those are two most close routes to an entrepreneur. Yeah, entrepreneurship. Yeah.
Got it. Thanks. And we have one more question from the audiences. So could you share some course you take in MBA or in your free time, and the books you read and found very useful in building your communication or business model, startup management, those kind of knowledge? So yeah, that's my favorite question. Like always, would like to know your book list, and how did you learn about these startups?
Like me personally, I like to read a lot of poetry. I don't actually read much books that teach you how to be successful, because let's say, you're doing a startup, everybody's situation is different. What entrepreneur can only share with you what they did. Little do they share with you why they did it or how they think of and analyze such things, right? So I think what we need to learn is actually the mindset. And this mindset is actually very, very simple, which is, you come up with, you study the problem, and then you come up with a hypothesis, you get feedback, and then you iterate on that. So like very, very simple. I would say simplicity prevails. You just need to just put down your books and then actually do things, and then learn and understand the methodologies from the actual experiment on your own. Yeah, because entrepreneurship is not a methodology. It is something you do and you build. Yeah. If you're
Totally.
interested, just get started. Yeah, don't wait on it. Yeah.
Totally. If you read 100 books, but you did nothing, then you're never gonna do your startup. I really love it. Yep. So the next question. So you mentioned it's always better to work for the startup when you're trying to hire people instead of creating your own, because it's really risky. So you have to sacrifice your full-time job. So is there any ways to do the full-time job in like a big tech company? But I'm also doing the same time as a startup part-time. I think it happened to a lot of your colleagues. They start with like some
Yeah.
jobs, but they also work in part-time. So do you have any advice for this kind of practice?
I would say this is definitely a temporary solution. If your end goal is to work on a startup or build a startup, but definitely make the switch sooner rather than later. By the switch, I mean, quit your full-time job and start work full-time for your startup. I mean, I understand that people need some time to validate the idea to make sure, the idea is actually worth them pursuing. So that's why a lot of people, they start, working part-time on their startup ideas. Like even for me, I did the same. I was studying full-time on my MBA program. And then in the same time, I was working part-time on my startup. So I would say if you could handle and allocate your energy strategically, yeah, why not? There's a million ways to do things. Yeah.
Definitely. So one more question for the software engineers, especially they have a lot of time building their technical skills. Is there a good way, or do you have any advice for those tech people to build some skill sets that's related to entrepreneurship, startups? Do you have any advice for this kind of people?
Yeah, I would say make friends with entrepreneurs, especially on the business side, and then just start hacking, on certain ideas to see, maybe it'll become a next unicorn, right? In 5 years, you never know. I would say if you go to business school, we actually teach you how to network effectively. So you want to be the breaker, which means you want to make friends with people that can connect you to different groups of people, right? So I would say as engineers, definitely make friends with people with different backgrounds, different experience, and then exchange ideas. And then, I think our audience here, they already made a great first step into, having access to, people in the entrepreneurship world. Yeah, just keep networking, keep talking with people. And once you decide to, explore a little bit in terms of, entrepreneurship, you can either start even helping a friend on a startup idea, or, work with, your old friend or old colleagues on certain ideas and see how that goes. Yeah.
I'm actually pretty curious about how your MBA program tell you or teach you how to network. So can you just give us like an example? For example, I'm product manager and always say, hey, I got an idea. I just need one developer to get it down. So Can you just give like the case, what kind of networking tips or skills or methodologies I can use to get to know someone I need to know?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I guess for me, I have a lot of, very few strong ties with a very small group of people. They're very close friends. And then I have a lot of weak ties with a lot of different kinds of people. So when I try to find someone, there's always someone in between that I can reach out to, say, hey, do you know anyone? Can you help me find someone? So I would say definitely pay attention to grow your network by connecting yourself with more weak tie relationship-based connections. Also, one small thing you can do is definitely grow your LinkedIn connections. It's not a normal social network platform. It's your professional network, even though it sounds like a Facebook, but it's just different, right? If you have less than 500 connections, that means it's bad. Just keep reaching out to people and connect with those people. Because, for instance, I'm doing cold outreach, the sales cold outreach on LinkedIn right now. And then every week I could find at least 5 new leads to activate. Without a big LinkedIn base, you cannot do that because you never know what your network can give you. Yeah, just start building it right now. Yeah.
Awesome. Cool. I see there's no more questions coming in, and I think do you have any really last piece of information or any advice you can give to the audience? And we're gonna close this event.
I would say if you have the passion, you have the idea, just go do it. Don't live your life in regret. Yeah.
Totally agree. So great. So that concludes our talk for today. So thank you so much. And also got a thanks from our audience. It's a great share. They learned a lot. So really appreciate it, JJ.
Thank you all. Yeah.
Great.
Enjoy your weekend.
Yes, enjoy your weekend. I will give everybody 15 minutes back. And our SEC event will coming back in 2 weeks. We'll probably have we will have a rest in the Thanksgiving. So hope everybody have a great Thanksgiving, and we will see you next time. And thank you, JJ.
Thank you. Yeah, bye.